There's a certain peace that comes with living on a quiet piece of land, surrounded by nature and animals that trust you. Every morning, the ducks waddle to their pond, quacking contentedly, while the geese patrol like diligent sentries. It's a well-maintained balance, until someone decides they don't have to respect it. Karen moved in a few months ago, and from the start, she made it clear she wasn't thrilled about having a farm next door. My property isn't part of the HOA, but that hasn't stopped her from acting like she's in charge. She's complained about the geese honking too early, about the way the ducks wander near the property line, even about the smell of a place she doesn't own. I've ignored her, figuring she'd get bored and move on. I was wrong. The problem wasn't just Karen, it was her dog. A big, untrained mess of a thing. Always off-leash, always tearing through yards like the world was his playground. I'd seen it bolt across my land a few times, but I didn't think much of it until the day it went after my ducks. I was refilling their water when the commotion started, panicked quacking, flapping wings, and the streak of fur barreling through my flock. Feathers flew as ducks scattered, some diving into the pond, others flailing toward the bushes. One nearly got caught, a white drake barely escaping the snapping jaws. I shouted, and the dog hesitated just long enough for me to step in. Then came Karen, walking like she had all the time in the world, not a single hint of concern on her face. "Oh, don't worry," she said, waving a hand like this was no big deal. "He's just playing." Playing? My birds were terrified, and one had nearly been mauled. I kept my voice calm, but firm. "Your dog can't be off-leash on my property." She rolled her eyes. "They're birds. They can fly." I took a deep breath, trying to stay civil. "They're domesticated. They don't just fly away." Karen smirked, crossing her arms. Well, maybe they should learn. That was it. No apology, no offer to control her dog, just entitlement. She even had the nerve to suggest my geese were a nuisance, claiming she'd bring it up with the HOA. I reminded her, once again, that I wasn't part of her precious HOA, but she just shrugged. "They make the rules for the neighborhood," she said smugly. "And I'm sure they won't like this little farm situation." I could have argued, but there was no point. Karen wasn't the type to listen. She was the type who only understood one thing: consequences. And if she thought her dog had free rein here, she was about to learn what it felt like when something bigger, meaner, and a lot more territorial decided to return the favor. Karen was furious. The second she caught her breath, she stormed toward me, face red, eyes wild, pointing an accusatory finger like I had personally unleashed some kind of attack animal on her. "Your geese attacked me," she shrieked, voice wobbling between rage and embarrassment. "That is dangerous. You could get sued for this." I leaned against the fence, completely unfazed. "They're just geese being geese." She sputtered, clearly expecting some kind of apology or fear. She got neither. Instead, a few neighbors who had been watching the whole thing started chuckling. Word had spread fast. A couple had even recorded it. "You think this is funny?" Karen turned to them, trying to rally sympathy. I could have been seriously hurt. One of the neighbors, an older man who had lived here long before she arrived, shook his head. "Nah, looks like they just gave you a taste of your own medicine. That dog of yours has been tearing through people's yards for weeks." Karen's mouth snapped shut, realizing she wasn't going to get support. But she wasn't done yet. She straightened, smoothing her clothes like that would somehow fix her wounded pride. "This isn't over," she declared. "I'll be reporting this to the HOA." That got a real laugh from the crowd. Someone muttered, "She really doesn't get it." I tilted my head. "You do realize I'm not in your HOA, right?" She scowled. "They still control this neighborhood." I shrugged. "Then go ahead. Report it. Maybe while you're at it, they can remind you about the local leash laws. You know, the ones your dog broke when it ran onto my property." For the first time, she hesitated. I didn't stop there. "And if you really want to escalate things, I can file a report about your dog harassing my livestock. Pretty sure the law's on my side for that one." Her expression flickered, like she was calculating her next move, but it didn't take much to see she was out of options. If she pushed this, she risked fines, maybe even losing the right to let her dog roam at all. And with a bunch of neighbors already against her, she had no allies left. For a long moment, she stood there, fists clenched, seething. Then, without another word, she spun on her heel and marched back to her house, slamming the door behind her. The second she was gone, someone let out a whistle. Well, a neighbor chuckled. That was the best entertainment we've had in a while. I just smiled, watching my geese preen proudly, completely unbothered by the chaos they had caused. They had done exactly what they were supposed to do, protect their home. And Karen? She had finally learned that not everything in the world bows to her demands.